Hey, this is Brian, the main contributor to the Smart Connections Obsidian plugin, and I'm about to go through the different GitHub issues that I have been unable to respond to. It takes a lot of time to read through the issues and formulate a good response, so I'm hoping that by recording my process, you can see what I'm thinking as I'm coming up with the response, and hopefully that will provide you with more insights on what the future of smart connections look like, and also answer whatever questions it is that you had in the issue itself. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. Okay. Next, Excalidraw failed file loop. Issue number 75. Previously failed files. That is a version 1 feature. Just like recording these, files that failed. Right now, if a file fails, if you look in the developer console logs, you should be able to see what failed. But, this actually was a pretty useful UI, because it really helped the community, or it helped the community help me figure, like, where are the shortcomings? As you can see here, it was easy for this person, hey, we have an issue here. So Excalidraw files are currently used by the SmartView, but admittedly, it's less than sufficient. Let's take a look at an example here. So Excalidraw, AI hide workflow. So what do we get here? Another Excalidraw file, a whole bunch of other Excalidraw files, and that is what I mean by less than sufficient. Because it's really unlikely that those Excalidraw files are the most relevant. And the reason I say that is because I know how the inner workings of this, like what it looks like, and basically it's saying that these things are so relevant, which like the first one, like Q&A with embeddings and hypothetical document embeddings, like that is quite related. But I definitely have some other notes related to hide. So hide prompts, notes, hide context, hypothetical document embeddings, like these would all be great. So where do we go from here? This, if you've been watching the videos, you've heard me talk about, we have a project JSBrains, which has been developed from the components in Smart Connections to enable other JavaScript developers to reuse those components. And there's like a few in the design of each of these components in the JSBrains project. And, like number one is my development principle of like minimizing external dependencies. Like as far as Obsidian is concerned, it's like the second you like include a library from another project, and then that project is including libraries from some other developer in another project, now all of a sudden you're like bringing in all this code into your like very likely like personal and private Obsidian. You're bringing in all this code from people you just don't know, and it might be like really like you might be using like one piece of this like library, and then you're like that piece is like 10 lines of code, and then you're bringing in 1,000 lines of code from that library to use 10 lines of code, and then like those other 990 lines of code are bringing in code from other libraries that are like similarly inefficient, and like they're using 10 lines of code but like pulling in another 1,000 just so they don't have to rewrite those 10 lines. And that is not what I want happening with the JSBrains project. So thing in common between all the components in JSBrains is minimizing dependencies. The other thing they all have in common is they are designed to work within what I'm calling the smart environment architecture. So a smart environment, like to the user, it's this environment that allows them to maintain privacy and maintain oversight and, like bring in customization to their system that is leveraging AI. And so I designed this like smart environment architecture to do that. So all of the JSBrains modules or components, they're designed to work seamlessly within this smart environment architecture. Now, the last thing they all have in common, besides being, unfortunately not well documented at this point, the documentation of these modules is sorely lacking, but that should change. So, so in the future, one of the things they'll have in common is effective documentation. But the last thing they have in common for now is the adapter pattern. And the adapter pattern is what we need for Excalidraw to work effectively in the SmartView. So let's see what we can do to make that happen. So we have smart modules. We have the smart chunks markdown adapter. That's actually what's currently handling the Excalidraw files, but smart chunks is the encompassing module that includes the markdown adapter. And we can first check Excali. Okay, nope. So what we want to do, so canvas adapter, that's probably in the projects folder. So the canvas adapter is partially implemented. You can probably learn a lot from that. It's a much simpler syntax than what's being used in Excalidraw, but like it's a very similar outcome, which is like these nodes that are connected. So like from a high level, I think it makes sense to, copy what's being done there, but let's just put in the incubator here. We're going to go, so initiated project for creating smart chunks Excalidraw adapter. I think that's good for now. So like when I create a new project, I'm going to clarify like what done looks like, like what are the decisions, similar to here, like next decisions, next actions, some other decisions. But yeah, so if I initiate the project for building that adapter, that'll get things rolling. But now let's get back to the issue. I'm going to just create a new issue in the JSBrains project, and then I'll mention this existing issue. FR. I don't know. Do I need to put FR? So like right now, enhancement needs. I need to add the needs review. Needs review. Actually, let me just change that. Needs review. That's so that Christiane can help me manage these issues. But okay, so let's go smart chunks Excalidraw adapter. But I mean, I'm like still figuring out how I want to, like I highly value naming things. I think, like how you name things really, it sets the pace, like it sets the frame for whatever you're doing. It's like stems from, like I ask myself a lot of questions. Here's like a tangent. I'm going to keep it quick, but basically I'm not a fan of the saying like there's no, and the reason I'm not a fan of that is because like it really discounts the value of a high quality question. And I think that's the same for names. Like there's plenty of instances where naming doesn't matter, but like if you're talking your personal knowledge management system or your integrated thinking environment or whatever you want to call it, I think naming is really important. So we're gonna go. We're just gonna go with that. Let's just add ref to that other issue. Let's add a couple labels, or at least that one label. Submit. Okay. And similarly, when we close this out, let's go created issue in JS Brains for creating adapter Excalidraw. And let's close that. Yeah, so basically that adapter gets created. That will automatically get imported into Smart Connections when it's released. And basically it just like changes the logic used for handling that type of file. Yeah, so, like better Excalidraw compatibility will be, like it's on the to-do list. So, I mean, I can't say when it will be completed. I think these adapters are really easy to make. I'm going to show some demos where I have like a version of Smart Connect I've been using personally that I'm like really, really excited to release. Basically, it takes the features of Smart Connect and implements them in your coding environment. And, like I think that there's opportunities for ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using to write code, but, some of those opportunities are way better than others. And adapters are one of those opportunities. For a quick explanation, there is a clear input and output. I can create an Excalidraw file, with as many different variations of the content as possible. And then I can create what the expected output would look like after it's processed by this adapter. And then I can give that to ChatGPT and I can say, create a test case, which in a few lines of code, you could say, when this gets input, this should be output. And then using the Smart Connect code GPT, I can tell it to iterate on the code until the test passes. I'm excited about sharing those demos. Like I haven't recorded many good examples yet. A lot of times, like I'm just testing something out. But I've been like blown away by the results. So that will be coming. And I'm excited because, like right now, Smart Connect, it's made for note takers and Obsidian users, which I think is like the best group of people to be working on such a it's like, without getting too far into it, it's like alignment with your objectives is like so important for making use of AI. And the people that are using these PKM tools and like taking extensive notes, it's like they have the context for personal alignment more than anybody else. So like I'm really like adamant about like continuing to focus on the, note-taking community, but these like existing tools are already proving like super useful as far as like a code repository goes. So I'm also really excited about that. Okay, onward.